Now, former First Lady Michelle Obama has essentially called the Trump administration racist and claimed that the deportations of illegal immigrants who came to America illegally are being carried out due to skin colour. Now, she went on to say on this podcast episode with Jay Shetty that these deportations are keeping her up at night. Let's take a listen.
My fears are for what I know is happening out there in streets all over the city. And now that we have leadership that is sort of indiscriminately determining who belongs and who doesn't, and we know that those decisions aren't being made with courts and with due process, and, you know, that it's being made like this cop that pulled my brother over when he was 12. You don't look like somebody that belongs. You know, I can determine just by looking at you that you're a good person or you're not a good person. And knowing that there's so much bias and so much racism and so much ignorance that fuels those kind of choices.
You know, isn't it interesting that Michelle Obama failed to mention that her husband Barack Obama deported more people than any other president, kicking out 3 million people in 8 years, but that never seemed to keep her up at night?
Yeah, they call Barack Obama the deporter in chief, actually, his left-wing critics who were trying to get the better of him on that particular issue. So, you know, Michelle Obama has nothing if not a short memory, it seems. But I mean, she's saying here that this deportation operation, the whole Tom Homan round up all the illegals, kick them out thing is keeping her up at night. Do you know what's actually keeping American citizens up at night? When people like Laken Riley in Athens, Georgia, are brutally murdered by an illegal alien who was previously deported and then was left back in this country. The American people are staying up at night due to the fact that there are MS-13 trendy Aragua thugs, rapists, murderers, gangbangers proliferating with increasing frequency or outright ubiquity all throughout these United States, due to the abhorrent policies, to an extent, of her husband Barack Obama, to a much greater extent, frankly, to Barack Obama's old running mate, the former President Joe Biden, who just let in 8 to 10 million illegal aliens based on some counts there. The American people have no interest in this. You can look at opinion poll after opinion poll after opinion poll. It's actually remarkable, Gabrielle, just how much the American people have shifted on this issue. This is actually one of my favorite polling statistics. I go back to the second Barack Obama term, speaking of the Obama family. Back then, around 2013, 2014, give or take, it was roughly 1/3 of Americans, 33 to 35%, that told pollsters they supported the deportation of all illegal aliens in this country. Fast forward now to the year 2025. That number is between 60 and 65%. It is almost doubled. The American people have come around to Donald Trump's position on the mass deportation issue. Donald Trump, frankly, deserves a lot of credit for that, actually. He's been single-handedly responsible, I think, for shifting the American electorate when it comes to their stance on this. But this is yet another example as to how Barack and Michelle Obama, who have their fancy place in Martha's Vineyard, I know because I've seen it. I've actually been there. I've seen it with my own eyes. They have their fancy place, Martha's Vineyard. They have their God knows how much money, Netflix contract there. These people are just woefully out of touch. They have learned precisely zero lessons, Gabriella. Zero lessons.
Absolutely.
They have learned from getting schlacked the way they did in 2024. I'm not entirely sure what it will take to wake them up out of their own stupor. I'm just very happy, frankly, that it is not my problem to figure that out.
I know, when you assess Trump's last 100 days, you look at the Democrats' last 100 days, and it's been utterly pathetic. Let's talk about Harvard. Harvard has quietly renamed its Office for Equity, Diversity, Inclusion and Belonging to the Office of Community and Campus Life. Now, the change was announced this week in an email to the campus community from the head of what had been the Office of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion and Belonging, and it comes just hours after going head-to-head with the Trump administration in court over more than $2 billion in frozen funding. Has Harvard caved here? Are we seeing DEI dying, or are we going to see these woke practices still exist but just under a different name?
Unfortunately, Gabriella, I think that it is very much the latter. And this is a very, very common trend. This is not just Harvard that does this. All sorts of corporations throughout America are doing this as well. Look, Donald Trump signed one of the most impactful executive orders in American history with his week one executive order to essentially ban DEI, not just in the federal government, but also throughout private sector America. And the reason that he signed this is because DEI, insofar as it amounts to anti-white, anti-Asian, anti-Christian, anti-Jewish, and so forth discrimination, is in violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 here in the United States there. But a lot of these companies, a lot of these universities are, as you implied, doing the exact same thing. They're basically just reshuffling the deck and calling it something slightly more anodyne sounding, something slightly more mellifluous, a little more pleasant, pleasing to the ears there. But as it pertains to Harvard, it's actually doubly, triply, or dare I say, quadruply laughable and outright farcical. And I'll tell you why. Because at the same time that Harvard University made a big stink out of releasing this 300 plus page report, whatever it is, on the horrors of on-campus anti-Semitism since October 7th, the exact same week they did this, they have doubled down on their lawsuit against the Trump administration. So they're basically suing the Trump administration at the same time for having the temerity to threaten to withhold billions of dollars in funding for, you guessed it, for Harvard's refusal to abide by the Civil Rights Act. So they're, on the one hand, they're saying that anti-Semitism is bad. On the other hand, they're saying you, the taxpayer, still owe us $2+ billion while we can get away with not actually following the Civil Rights Act there. So I mean, these people are just such unbelievably scathing hypocrites there. And Harvard has clearly not learned a darn thing. They
No.
absolutely enjoy being the tip of the spear of the anti-Trump resistance. I actually have a hot off the press new op-ed for the Telegraph, the British paper, calling Harvard Hamas occupied territory. So, I mean, Harvard is in really deep doo-doo right now. And I frankly am personally very much cheering on the Trump administration as they continue to seek to level the playing field there at Harvard University.